The opioid crisis, meanwhile, is taking a devastating toll on Americans in general, but on veterans and active duty troops specifically. The most recent VA study finds that veterans are twice as likely to die from an accidental overdose than the general population. The drug problem becoming so serious that just last month, President Trump announced the creation of a commission to combat opioid abuse across the country.
This is a total epidemic, and I think it's probably almost untalked about compared to the severity that we're witnessing.
Joining me now to discuss former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie and Kaitlan Collins. Carl, let me start with you. This certainly hits home for you, doesn't it?
Oh, it's huge. And the biggest problem here is how little the VA has done to combat it. You have 7,500 veterans every year killing themselves. 5,000 of them are from drug overdoses and drug use that are putting them in this mental state. And the problem now is the VA actually has the tools to fix this. They're not doing it. They're not applying it. It's funded. It's paid for. It's available. And they're not doing it.
Why aren't they using it?
Because they're idiots. I mean, this is, if anybody has ever questioned should there be government-controlled health care, the answer is absolutely no because of this. There's a genetic test that's available out there that's funded that the VA is actually doing, and they're not applying the results to it to prescribe people properly.
Is there anyone in Congress who's trying to push this? I mean, because we've heard a lot of advocates for veterans among, our elected leaders. Someone must know that this is happening.
People do know, people understand it, but the problem is it's cutting through the bureaucracy, and like that's why, like David Shulkin, he was confirmed 100-0. The expectation is very high. Get this done and use the technology that you have available. Otherwise, you're not doing anyone any good, and you're killing veterans.
Kaitlan, President Trump saying that this is a great untold story. It is. When you start to look at the numbers, this rivals the crack epidemic, which we heard about nonstop at its peak. And, of course, we should have. It ripped families apart and people were dying. But the same thing is happening, and it's going almost unnoticed in this country by the mainstream media.
You're exactly right, and Carl made a great point. This is all because of a lack of effort on the VA's part. They have doctors who are prescribing painkillers at an alarming rate. They have incredibly long wait times, and there is no treatment program for veterans who are addicted to painkillers. They nickname Veterans Affairs centers Candyland because they prescribe these painkillers so easily instead of figuring out what's really hurting their patients, and that's just disturbing. The
stress that the military is under. We've been fighting wars nonstop right now, and it's the tours of duties, and we all know them. We see movies about it. Everyone's probably has at least a relative who's been in that. What can be done proactively to stop this, to even stop this from beginning so that it doesn't mushroom into the eventual problem that it has?
Getting off the one-size-fits-all prescription process like she was talking about. And the issue here is, too, with this technology, every veteran has this technology available to them. They have to go in. If you're a veteran, go into the VA and ask for a genetic test because that allows the doctor to prescribe based on how you metabolize medication and what is right for your genetic code. And if the doctors are not doing that, they're just prescribing pretty much blindly.
Is there anything to do, though, while someone is in service in these particular theaters to talk to them to make sure that use doesn't begin overseas? That because to lessen the pain, to ease the pain, the anxiety. My father, he passed away last year, and he finally just told me stories last year before he died about his time in Vietnam and why he changed him as a person, and he changed dramatically.
Well, the problem is you have guys that are, 17 years old, coming out of high school, 16 weeks later, they're on a battlefield. And that's a lot to cope with, and I think the military does a great job getting guys ready to go to combat, but not a great job on getting guys to come home. You break it, you buy it, and the U.S. military does have a task on their hand to make sure that people are reintegrated into society properly.
Right. Kaitlan, do you see anything happening on a political front to make this happen?
Yes, Donald Trump has created this commission, and this was one of his biggest issues during the campaign. He said these veterans are people who go out there and risk their lives for the country. The least we can do is make sure we take care of them when they come home and have somewhere they can go when they're hurting and not just get prescribed painkillers by a doctor who's being overworked.
It is certainly the least we can do. Carl, so it's great seeing you, buddy. It's been too long, and thank you for your service and your passion on this topic.